We have a quorum.
Carter's waiting for that New York Giant beat down tonight. That's what he's waiting on. He's waiting. Waiting for that beat down tonight.
Okay. All right, good evening. Welcome to the City of Groton Committee of the Whole on Monday, September 26, 2022 at the Municipal Building Council Chambers. City Clerk, please call the roll.
All councilors are, and the mayor is present. Absent are Councilor Norris and Finance Director Ron Uhas.
Okay, so we're going to get started. We're going to start under 655, Department Presentations, the November, May elections. You guys could come up, or whoever. Okay.
You guys all got a handout. You have the actual bill that the mayor printed, and then you actually have another handout that's like almost like an Excel spreadsheet in front of you.
Well, before we go in to this, I want to talk, Kirsten, if you could talk about this.
Okay. So it was brought to my attention that there were some errors in our redistricting. Some of the streets were assigned to the wrong polling locations. So when we found out about that, we immediately went in and made the changes. And this handout that you have in front of you is what is being sent to every single person whose address was affected. So they will have a list of all the candidates running. On the left-hand side, it says what districts. So the only ones that matter as far as the districts go, obviously, are the state representative, 40th and 41st. So I wanted to send that out. At the top, there's a list of all the districts by number, and then it tells what it is, because not everybody knows that District 1 is the Groton Library. We call it 1, 2, 3 through 7. But I wanted them to be able to know that, okay, I voted the Groton Library, so District 1, you know, these are the candidates that I can look for on the ballot, because there was question about whether they thought they were in the 41st, they might have gone for the wrong candidate, and if they were actually in the 40th. So I wanted to make that as clear as I possibly could. And then on the back is actually a larger sized postcard. We sent out postcards to everybody, so this is essentially the same thing, but I highlighted in yellow, please disregard previous incorrect information. And then in the square in the middle, it was tailored to whichever district those people are going to vote in. This is just a sample that happens to be District 4, but there were letters sent out to the other districts, and they just said the same information, just in the square was different.
So the information that I got was 214 voters were in District 2 and District 3. So, and that's going to be corrected by this?
Yes, it's already corrected in the system, but these letters actually went out today in the mail to all of those people individually, and it wasn't like they said how many households. I sent one to every person, not just one to the household, because I wanted them to know they were registered and that these are their candidates that are going to come in.
Okay. And then once this takes effect for this election, then it'll just carry forward to the rest of the elections. Actually, I saw, well, Councilor McCabe, I saw her hand first. I don't know, you might have been first.
I was just going to let you know, Counselor Norris messaged me. He'll be here in 10 minutes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I just had a question. What happened initially? We did a redistricting, because I was in District 3, or now I'm wondering, did I not be in District 3 now? Am I
What's the street?
Blueberry Hill?
Okay, nothing, there is in District 2 now.
Okay.
You should have gotten a postcard to that
I
effect.
did get a postcard saying mine had changed, so I'm now,
Yes.
2 became 3, or 3 became 2.
Well, yours became 3 because you switched from the 41st to the 40th, or vice versa. I always say that backwards. The 40th, now you're in the 41st. So you could have gone to District 1, but because you are in the city, we put you in District 3 so that that doesn't screw up any city elections.
I was in 3. I'm in 2 now?
You're in 2 now, yes. Sorry, did I just say that wrong again? Sorry.
That's okay, I'm confused too. All right, so I'm now District 2. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other question or comment? Deputy Mayor Depot.
But in case anyone's worried, if they go to the wrong polling place, the workers there will let them know they're in the wrong place and they'll send them to the right one, right?
That's correct. We do that every time. They would have to go see, when their name's not on the list, they would send them to the assistant registrars, who, when they're not on the list, would then call our office. We would verify that they are registered and that they vote wherever they vote, and we would send them with a little piece of paper that has the address on it, so they know where to go.
And if anyone has any questions, do we have this information? Can we put this up on our Facebook page maybe as we get close to Election Day, the registrar's information?
Sure.
It's also on the website.
Second?
It's on the website under
Okay.
city clerk as well.
All right. So it's already on our website. Any other questions? Were there questions over here? Questions or comments?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right, is there anything else on this? Okay. So last month, we talked about May, November elections. I made sure you guys had a hard copy of the legislation. So it talks about automatically going to November of the odd years if there is no action taken. If there is action taken, it requires 5 of 6 votes in order to keep it in May. It does say that if you stay in May, at a later date, you can change it to November. But we have correspondence from Ted Bromley with the election, Director of Elections that says, so if you change to November, they cannot return because there's no language in the statute that allows it. So if you go to November, you stay in November. If you go to May, you can still go to November at a later date should the council, by a simple majority, decide to do that. So.
Who said that?
Councilor Carter, what was your question?
Who said that? That if you go to, so, because we keep saying if you go to November, but according to the statute, we're already in November.
No.
How is that?
So the statute says if we take no action, we will go to November. So we're not in November
On 1/1/23.
on 1/1/23.
That's not what I get. What I get from the statute is that it already put us in November. As we be voting to change to May. That's what I'm getting. Because we automatically, the statute already puts us in November. Our vote would be to change it to May. If we have no action, if we have no action, we're already in November because the statute says we're in November. That's what I'm getting from it, and that's what the statute says.
Okay, if that's what you get. So if we don't do anything, we're gonna stay in November.
We're in November because the statute says we're in November, that's what I'm trying to say. So the vote is actually going to be to change to May.
Okay,
Because we're already in November. I'm just clarifying it, and that's what I'm reading, and that's what, so I'm asking if you said that, because
who said what?
because you keep saying that if we change to November, we're already changed to November. You said,
Okay, no, what I said about Bromley was he said, no, I believe the goal is to get all towns in November. So once they change to November, they cannot return as there is no language in the statute to allow it. That's what Bromley said.
we're already in November. because
Okay,
the put this in November. We're changing our vote, if you change it back to May, that's what the vote's for. And, he also said, Bromley, that's why I asked you who said that, because I want to get clarification on this, because, the clarification is gonna determine how I vote, as far as, it looks like we're gonna be moving to vote, to change it to May, correct? That's a question. No, it's not keep it, our vote would be to change it to May. That's what the vote would be for, to change it to May. So it looks like we're moving, or heading to that direction, correct?
some point, there is going to be a vote to determine if we're going to be in May or if we're going to be in November.
We're not going to, see, that's where we're arguing, we're not
Go
having a
ahead.
discussion on
Well,
whether
I'm-
we're gonna be in November, we're having a discussion if we're changing it to May. That's a
We're not
different-
arguing. Could
So
you-
you're actually both right. You have until January 1st of 2023 to switch back to May. So you would be voting to keep it in May or move it back to May, being the same kind of action. But you have until January 1st. If after January 1st you've done nothing, it's in November and it can never go back to May.
Okay, and that's what, okay, and that's what I was saying, that we're in May, regardless, we do anything, we're already scheduled by statute to do it in November, right now.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying. So our vote, right,
Yes.
and our vote is to change it back to May. And I'm using the word change because it's already been changed to November 4th, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that is to be clear. So then my question would be, do we know certainly, right? Because according to what I read, if we're already in November, right? Statutorily in November already, right? According to what I'm reading, what I've read, and even this, thanks to the handout, from what I read prior, is, and this is where I need the clarification, because this is new. According to this, and this is the way I read it, is that if we switch it to May, then it would not only possibly go back, it would also, every couple of years, we would have to vote. According to what, if you just read this, it's already in November. It would seem like every election year, we would have to have a 3/4 vote to change it to May. And that's what I'm reading, so I'm asking, do we know for certain that he's saying that we can't change it back to November when I'm reading that it's already in November? Do you see what I'm saying?
I think so. So if you don't do anything and it stays in November as the statute says, then it stays in November. You can never vote to go back to May after January 1st.
Okay, but where does it say that in here though? 'Cause
I don't know. I don't have that
No, I
handout.
know that, but I don't read that in here. From what I read is that every 2 years, we're going to have a vote in November, unless otherwise the government, unless we say otherwise, right? So it's saying that, and again, I'm not an attorney, but this is what I'm reading, and this is the reason why I'm asking, just no, it's not real specific, it really isn't.
No.
You know, it really isn't. I'm going off of, so technically what I'm reading, yes, you can change it back, because you're gonna be voting every 2 years anyway.
I believe that you will only vote every 2 years if you turn it back to May. But then you'd vote to keep it in May.
Where is it? No?
But if you don't do anything, you can never vote back to go back to May. I don't know. I didn't read what you have.
It says that you can change it back.
Right.
All right, it says that you can change
So
it
you want
back.
specific
But
words
what I'm
to say
saying
every
that,
2
it's
years.
saying that it's already, statutorily already in November, I'm saying. So how could you not change, how could you vote to change something back that's statutorily already there? It's already in November. So how could you say that we can't change something back that's statutorily in November? That's what I'm saying. And there's no, unless the attorney can tell me otherwise, it's kind of a gray area there. Because I don't know how you can change something back statutorily that's really already there. It already says that we have to do it.
If you read this, it says, go to 150, well,
Bottom of here. B. Is that what you're gonna read?
yeah. If any municipality where the legislative body determines to hold its municipal election on the first Monday of May of the odd numbered years in accordance with the provisions of subparagraph A of this subdivision, such legislative body may subsequently determine by a majority vote to hold such municipal election on the Tuesday after the first Monday of November of the odd numbered years. So that's if we're in May. If we vote to go to May, later on, this body could vote with a majority to go to November. Once you go to November, you're in November. I don't see anything in here where it says
It
if the
doesn't say-
body votes to go to May, that you gotta vote every 2 years to keep it in May.
Well, even if it doesn't say that, I'm saying, I'm not even speaking upon that. I'm not gonna be here anyway, so I don't know. I don't think, but by this, I don't think I mean, it's not clear. I think
What
we
is
could
your,
all- I
what,
think we could all
what
agree
is
to
your
that.
question
But my
that
question is.
you would like to get clarified, and I'll send it to the
Because
attorney?
my question is, because it's been posed, and I wasn't here, but it's been posed that, suggested, sorry, that we hold it in May and just ask the voters to see if we switch it to November. And my argument is, I think we should have it in November and then ask the residents if we want to switch it to May, right? Where.
But it won't matter then,
Yeah, but how do you know that it can't go back, though?
because it says you can't go back. Once you go to November, you cannot go back. Are you,
So you're saying, it says
All right.
January,
go ahead, finish
where
your,
where does it say in
finish your
here that you
statement there,
can't-
other,
so in here, what is this, where does it say that you can't, go to May? If you keep it in November, what it. Where's my thing at?
are you, pause for a moment, so I have
You can
other,
go ahead, you can go ahead, I'm just listening, I'm
Okay.
reading, I'm listening, go ahead.
Deputy Mayor Depot.
Thank you, Mayor. So, we had received this email, it's also in our packet. Ted Bromley is the Director of Elections. And from our discussion before, because we asked this question before, Clerk Jacome got clarification. So my concern is so the statute says it moves except if the legislative body chooses not to move it. So there's been a ton of discussion, and I mean, I would say the Director of Elections has the last word on how this is written. So if he says that we can't change our mind after letting it move to November, I'm gonna go with, he's the one that makes that decision. I have talked to a lot of people about moving the election. And I think that, we've discussed, the election's been in May for however many years, so long. I think that we have an opportunity to delay the movement. Unfortunately, had we known about this when it got passed, we would have had all this lead time. We would have had 2 years lead time on the decision, or a year and a half. We didn't get that because we weren't notified of this. I would be in favor of essentially giving us that lead time by keeping the election in May for one more term. We could put the question on the ballot. Is that a possibility to put a question on the ballot in May for city residents to vote whether they would like to keep the election in May or move it to November? I think that that would be a good option, because then the residents get to choose, or at least they get to tell us, because really, even if we put it on the ballot, we still would have to vote as a council to confirm that decision. But I am in favor of having a longer time to decide, because it is a big deal to move the election, whether or not, there's people that have opinions both ways. But it is a big deal to move the election, considering it's been in May for so long. I think we should give people the chance to give us their opinion, and there's no way to do that that's as effective as putting it on the ballot for the people to vote and make that decision. And the only way to do that is to keep the election in May for one more year. Now, if worst case scenario, we keep the election in May for one more election, people say, no, move it to November. All we've done is had one more May election out of 100. So I think the consequence of the reverse is more detrimental if we make the wrong decision. But if we keep the election in May, and the people say, you know what, no, we want to move it to November, then all we've done is, extended what we thought was going to be the case anyways. And then it goes to November the next election. I've pitched that to a bunch of people in the last couple of weeks, and I received a positive response. And again, I think if we're looking to know what the people actually want to do for the election, that is the only real way to know, is to ask them, in a manner in which we will get enough responses that it's representative of the people. Because I don't think that even the six of us talking to people, or the people who've come, or, we've had the members of each party come and give their opinions, it's still not representative of all of the electorate. So, in my opinion, I think our best, the most sensible option would be to ask the actual people who vote if they want to keep it in May or if they want to move it. So that's what I think.
And just continue.
Counselor
so-
Carter?
So it says on and after January 1st, right? So it's on, it's changing, but then also it says after. So what that's telling me, what I read before, is that you can still move it afterwards. It says on and after. It doesn't say on. It says on and after January 1st. So it's subsequent elections. So that means every election, whether it's November, you're always going to have the option to move it to May. That's not what that says?
Nope.
On and after January 1st, 2022, and notwithstanding any contrary provision of the law, there shall be held in a municipality biannually, right, every 2 years, a municipal election on Tuesday after the first Monday of November of the odd number of years, except that such municipal election may be held on the first Monday of the odd number of years if the legislative body of the municipality so determines by 3/4 vote. That's saying that on and after January 1st, on a biannual basis, that we're gonna have that same, we're always gonna have that same option. That's what I'm reading.
Okay,
I
so
mean,
you want
how
clarification?
can anybody tell me otherwise, that that's not what I'm?
What I heard from what you said, it sounded like the statute is saying that you could have November or May after that date, but I think it's, if you voted by, they're just accounting for the people that, like us, if we chose to stay in May, we could still have our every other year on odd year in May versus November.
That's-
Not
so-
that you could change it after that date. And I think that
So this is the,
Mr. Bromley's statement right in the front of his email, when they posed the question to him, can we change it or not?
so.
They said no.
Yeah, so who is that?
Theodore Bromley, Director of Elections, Office of the Secretary of State, State of Connecticut.
Yeah, so why would it say that, though? It says on or after. I mean, I don't understand why, and I still would need more clarification, because based off this is still telling me that you could have a November election, but still move it to May. Not only once, but every other year you can move it to May if you have that vote. It says the option, and I think they put that in, I think they put this in just in case you did have that May election and you wanted to go back to November. So I think they're allowing all options here. And I think, and this is just me assuming, I'm asking, I think that it's almost obvious in the first statement that you can move it back and you can keep it in November, but still change it to May in the future, because why would it say there on after? And I'm just asking for clarity from what I'm reading, because, like I said, Counselor, Deputy Mayor Depot's, she makes a lot of sense with, and I'm about bringing it to vote. But I would prefer a November vote, because objectively, we'd have more factual information as opposed to a May vote of something that we've been doing for years. I think if we have a November vote, we could actually see if, we can see the voter turnout, we could see the logistics of things, we could see if, transportation-wise, social, economic, if they get there, I think it's just more, and we can see. And furthermore, I think it's instead of guessing, because there's been a whole lot of guessing, a whole lot of people saying there's gonna be confusion, there's gonna be, people aren't gonna wanna do it, I think it's a good opportunity to actually see if November would actually work. And for me, one, if we could do that, if we could have a November election, but still change it to May, subsequent years, just like what I'm reading here, then I think that that would be the best option, because I think we could tackle all of that with a November election rather than a May election.
So you think we can just switch back and forth whenever we want?
I didn't say that, but
Okay.
I think according
Is
to this,
that-
you can,
Okay,
as long as you vote.
so who do you want an opinion from? Do you want us to reach out to the elections guys, or do you want me to get my attorney to write an opinion?
I don't need your attorney, who's probably the city's attorney.
It's the city's attorney.
But it's always been the city's attorney. But I would like somebody that has more detail of this. And I would like also if somebody can answer a question on why the reasons it was changed to November to begin with. Because those reasons actually might outshine everything. So I just would want to know more, a little more.
Where do we get that? It's gonna satisfy your question.
I mean, you're asking me, but I would yield
Well,
to you.
you are looking for information, you're looking for specific information. Okay,
Because it's clear to me, Mayor, that whatever we're reading is it's what we kind of perceive what the law to be.
All right.
When I think, I just want, this is all new, and like I said, I mean, to me, totally honest with you, it's not a decision that I'm gonna, whatever decision we decide to make, that is totally detrimental, in my opinion, but I would wanna do, less is better to me. I think the decision's already been made for November, and I think if we could get a November election and still, work either, look if there's kinks in it or things that, if it's gonna be better, I think that it's automatic, but the work's already been done to change it to November. So why not have it in November if we could have and I wouldn't be here, if you guys could move it, or the body that's here can move it to May if November doesn't work out. That would be optimal for me.
okay.
So I guess clarification would be what you're saying. Is it still if it was still possible, that's my questions. To get a clear answer on if it will be possible to move to May, future years, even if we have a November election this time. That's really the sole question I have. Another question I guess that would be beneficial is why did it change? What was the reason why it was brought forward to begin with?
So I'll clarify, Mayor, that there's the original bill is Senate Bill 1017 in 2021. So if you'd like the council, I can pull it up on CGA and send you the link. Usually it has, from what I recall, is you have the testimony, the transcripts of all the testimony and things like that. So I'll look for that and send it to the council.
Thanks.
Councilor Sheffield?
Yes, I believe if it was in the statute itself, as far as not being able to reverse your decision to go back to May, because I guess it's not in the statute itself. We got a letter here saying that you can't move it back. If it was clear in the statute, I think that would be beneficial, and that's where an attorney's brief, I guess, would possibly request that clarification to where could statutorily, if we chose, like I said, we go to November, and then with the option of potentially going back to May and putting that in the statute itself, that's something I think what Councilor Carter is requesting, and that's not in there right now.
Well, we're not gonna be able to change the statute.
Well, that's what I'm saying, to have a legislative change of it to make that reversal. That's, I think, what Councilor Carter is asking.
I'm not asking for a legislative change. I'm asking a little more clarification for certainty that we cannot change it to May, because what I'm reading in here is that we can. So.
Right, that's-
I just want more answers. What I don't want is to come back a year later and then saying, we could have changed this, what are they talking about? But this is all new, and this happens all the time. you know, I mean,
Okay, Deputy Mayor Depot.
Thank you. Okay, so just for clarification, I'm gonna read Clerk Jacom's email to the Director of Elections, who's the one that makes these decisions and who interprets this law. What, okay, please don't interrupt me. His question in his email directly to him said, if the city council decided to go with the November elections, could they go back to their usual May elections afterwards? The response is, no, I believe the goal is to get all towns to November, so once they change to November, they cannot return as there is no language in the statute to allow it. Now, it would have been nice if the statute said, once this decision is made, you can't go back, but Mr. Bromley interprets legal documents all the time. I feel like it's kind of, doesn't make sense to question his opinion. He is the head of elections for the whole state. In addition, the letter that we received from the Groton City Democratic Committee Chairman has a paragraph in here. He contacted our legislators and asked them for information on who put this in the bill, what was the intent, and as of this letter, the local legislators he talked to said they did not know and that they weren't sure the intent of putting this in the bill, and that it got added near the end of the deliberations. And even after more inquiry, he couldn't get the info on who's the person that added it. Now, I'm sure if you go through the testimony, it might be in there somewhere. But the bill is over 800 pages long, so I don't know how long that'll take to find that specific deliberation. In my opinion, you know, this is a big decision, and I don't think, I agree we shouldn't make it lightly, but I think that we can count on the opinion of the Director of Elections for the entire state of Connecticut when he gives us his opinion on the statute. I don't think that it's easier, and the registrar can probably attest to the logistical change it will be to change the election to November 1 year, even if we had the option to change it back, would be difficult. And even if that were the option, the better option, the cleaner option would be to let the voters decide and change one time if we're going to change it. I think, you know, like I said, it's been in May for a long time. If we're going to change it, I think it's one of those decisions. There are several that we have decisions on this council that I feel like if we make it, if we only have one chance to make the decision, we better make the right one. And I think this is one of those decisions that we need to carefully consider. And I don't think it's best to make the decision with just the six of us, rather. I think that it is better to get the input of the residents. And the only way to do that is to keep the election in May, put it on the ballot, and then if the electorate says they want to change it, then we can easily change it. It doesn't even require, if we do it that way, it doesn't even require a supermajority. It only requires a majority to change it to November after the fact. I think that we should go with what the people want, not just what we see in our own little bubbles. So I think that that's the better decision. I think otherwise we're saying that the people's opinion that vote doesn't matter.
Councilor Sheffield?
Going back to the reasoning of the change was back to the schools, correct? I think when we spoke before as to the inconvenience of the school systems because they had to account for, you know, kids are in school that election day in May. And that was the issue of why everything needed to be in November. I believe, wasn't that the reasoning, I think, when we spoke last time?
That was one of my reasons to move it to November, because of the safety of the kids at Thames River Magnet School now. And they're not closed in May, but if we chose to keep it in May, then I would go to the Board of Ed and see if we could get that to be a professional development day or something along those lines so that the schools could be closed in May. but I'm not sure
'Cause
how
that-
that would work, or if they would even do it indefinitely, especially.
My next question to Ed, I guess, have you reached out to the other towns that are affected by this bill as well, and what are they doing, or, because,
Yes, Counselor. We've reached out to a few, the ones that still had the elections in May. A handful of them still, just like us, kind of found out last minute, or actually were informed when I reached out to them. There were two in particular, Bantam, Litchfield, and Litchfield Borough from Litchfield, that would be remaining in May. And one in Jewett City that said they would remain in May as well, but that was due to polling location and being one polling location already. So, other than that, a lot of them didn't answer me or were just finding out.
so those other counties have already voted to keep it in May, or they haven't voted yet, or?
From what I've heard, two of them have already voted to keep them in May.
Okay,
And then the rest have just been informed or haven't voted at all.
okay.
Okay. Anyone else? Counselor Norris?
This is a very unique situation, and one that I usually love benchmarking, but because this is such a unique situation for each involved, we have to kind of figure out what's best for our residents. I would dare say, if we do want to get another opinion on, or clarification, is to go through CCM, which we may have already done, but we all know the connections that CCM has on the Hill, and their folks can also give us some type of interpretation. In terms of voting in May, I like the idea in voting in May, but I would also caution the people that vote in May are going to say, probably, let's leave it in May, because we're really not asking people that haven't come out to vote. I will say I don't know how to get those responses, so I think, unfortunately, our only option in seeking public opinion is either here at a town council meeting or a council of the whole meeting, or having some type of question in May. I don't see any other way to really do it. Thank you.
Well, like I said, I like. Make sure.
Counselor Piazza?
Yes, go ahead.
So I think with Counselor Carter, I think clarification would be great. That's one thing I want to say. I do understand that. I also agree that it would have been nice what Deputy Mayor Debo said, that if he had said, no, I believe the goal is to get the towns to November, instead of maybe said, no, because in statute, blah, 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 it says it specifically, and clarified it. So with that said, and I appreciate you, we are going to honor and respect Mr. Bromley, but I will have to say, we can always question people in leadership. We definitely can. It's not that we don't trust, we just want clarification. And then I wanted to say in the first line of the letter, they do state that this change was made as part of the 2021 Connecticut budget bill, which is over 800 plus pages long. So that is one of the reasons that they did change it, was due to the budget. And obviously, I'm assuming, because it's not clearly stated, that it's saving money. I'm still kind of up in the air, but I mean, I think, obviously, the elections have been held in May, so what has happened when they were held in May? Were they at West Side before it was Thames River, and they were in school at that time? So it obviously did happen, so forth and so on, and I guess, so this municipality obviously was able to do it. So I mean, it's something that has been done, but I mean, and it just seems that kind of out in the air. We're just doing this because we wanted to get everybody on this in November, kind of thing. So there's, I think, just a lot of clarification that needs to be done. And how much of these 800 plus pages are we going to look through in order to, I mean, I appreciate Clerk Chacon being able to send us some things that we could look at to better vote on it. So that's my say on it.
Is there anyone else? Counselor Sheffield?
Yeah, just reiterating about November, I think more people come out for the November election because, again, it's election day. And I think we'll probably even get a better pulse of whether, we want it. If we took it to the voter, the November election would be a truer bellwether than May, because not as many people come out to vote in May as they do in November. And as someone who has campaigned for a long time, I had to remind voters that we have an election in May, and you don't have that problem in November. So I would prefer, if that was an option, to put that on the ballot for November. But sadly, as Mr. Bromley had pointed out, we can't, once we have it on November, we can't go back. And that's where, again, a legal briefing could be filed to see if that could be adjusted. So, but if it can't, then I still stand for, I think November you get more people to come out to vote and more inclusive, again, to the community. So that's where I stand.
Let me go here, and then I'll go back to you. Deputy Mayor Depot.
Considering that, I just had a thought. I don't remember who was speaking, but just made me think. When Councilor Norris said it. So if the thought is that the registrar said last time that the city voter turnout is not significantly different in May than it is in November, correct? That's what you said last time? It's like 1 or 2%. However, if the council thinks that it makes more sense to put it on the ballot in November, if we were to keep the election in May for one more term, it wouldn't change for 2 years anyways. So what we could keep the election in May and put it on next November's ballot, if we think that that would be a truer representation of people's interests. Because if we kept it in May, so if we had an election May 2023, we would have until the May 2025 election to change it to November anyways. Like it wouldn't move. So we could put it on the November 2023 ballot, the question, and it would have the same effect as putting it on the May ballot because it wouldn't move that soon anyway. So it wouldn't.
That wouldn't be a city ballot though for November.
Yeah, well,
But-
it could. You could put it in District 2 and District 3.
Right, so it would go just on the city ballot. City residents vote in November also. So we could put it on the 2023 ballot. And then it would also give, if the decision at that time is to move the election to November, it would give us an entire year to make those logistical changes for the following election. So
Yes.
it would kind of spread things out, and this is the other thing that I've been talking to people about. If we can not be in a rush, I think this is a bad decision to make in a rush also. I think it's not smart to rush into a decision because we were kind of forced to, because we didn't know. So I think the more sensible thing is to not rush into the decision. And the only way to do that is to keep at least one more election in May. But I do think that it might be a good idea, instead of putting it on the May ballot, to put it on the November ballot for 2023, put the question there, because there are some people who don't know we vote in May, and you would capture those few people. And that might make more sense if we wanted to get, or we could put it on both ballots.
Councilor Piazza.
Thank you, Mayor. I think how Deputy Mayor Depot speaking, I think strategically that sounds really good to do this and change it over to here strategically. When you're saying rushed, so are we saying that our leaders rushed into this decision? Because when you read this paragraph, I can't say they rushed, but obviously, I'm just saying, hold on. I'm just saying that obviously somehow this was formulated for some reason, and 800-plus pages is not a rush, but sometimes, when we put it together. So I want to revisit back when I talked about SurveyMonkey. Everybody seemed to be happy with that, to poll our people through SurveyMonkey. And I haven't heard that being brought up again or answered, or if that was a possibility. We're talking about putting a question on the ballot, but then we're talking about putting that in May. I'm looking for something to happen prior to, similar to how Sierra Patrick did, and what would be our label for the city. Now, that was completed. She was able to do that and put her feelers out for multiple people. Why isn't that we can't do that now? So I don't see how we can't put out the same question to our voters prior to May, just to get a majority. If we're gonna go out and talk, we can always say, well, majority of the people I talked to, majority of the people that I emailed, the majority of this. We can also say that, and I mean, just as much as Sierra Patrick said, majority of people that answered the question reference to the motto for City of Groton, that would be the majority who actually received it, read it, and made a decision about it. It would be similar to here, whether you talk to them, whether you send something out to them, you put it on a ballot. And do you have the numbers of how many people actually can vote in the City of Groton who are not registered?
I do not have those numbers tonight, but I could get those to you.
Yeah, that would be interesting to me, because I feel that we're only touching out to registered voters, and I think we would, I mean, we care about the city. I think we should be moving also to get more people registered. I know it's always out there. They do it at the DMV. They do it at the post office. It's always asked, are you a registered voter? But I mean, especially with this going on, if we could reach some more unregistered voters. But I haven't heard anything more about the Survey Monkey. That seemed to be like by shaking of heads, like, yeah, it's a good idea, but then nobody's readdressed that at all.
Well, I need to find out if you do a Survey Monkey, can you target it to District 2 and District 3? Because if you're opening it up to anybody and everybody, then you set yourself up for a false survey. And so, understand, I don't know if we can target it for District 2 and District 3. I'll ask Sierra, or ask somebody else that is knowledgeable on Survey Monkey. Anyone else? We'll go ahead. Okay, Councilor McCabe.
I think it's a good idea to do Survey Monkey as a supplement to the vote, but I'd be curious to know, out of the 9,000 residents of the city of Groton, or how many actually answered the Survey Monkey? How many actually see it? And so I'd want to make sure that it's at least a certain percentage of residents to make sure that they even see it. So if we wanted to supplement, have it on the ballot whenever. I like the November idea a little better than a May ballot, so that we get a better representation, but also supplement it with the Survey Monkey to maybe catch those people that aren't. But then you have the problem of getting duplicate people voting twice. So there's not a good answer, I think.
Right,
Okay.
and just to answer to that, I would like to say that if Sierra did it, then whatever her majority was, and we're in agreement to it, then we have to apply our same feeling or shake our heads to that as we would to Survey Monkey. You understand what I'm saying? So if we're gonna be concerned about how many people we're gonna capture, then we should be concerned about how many were actually captured in the model for the city.
Oh, I agree. I don't have those numbers, so I couldn't.
Right.
Okay, anything else? All right, Deputy Mayor DePaul.
Well, I just want to clarify, because I didn't mean that the bill was done, I just mean that we just found out about it in August, and the political committees are already looking for candidates for the May election. So we're kind of put, if we were to let it change to November, we are kind of pushing like a timeline. That's what I meant. For us, it's kind of a rush. I didn't mean that the bill was kind of a rush. Had we found out when it got passed, we would have had a year and a half to figure this out. So essentially, we can give ourselves that lead time by keeping the election one more term. And again, moving the election to May after that is even easier because it only requires a majority. So if we keep it, right, so if we keep it in May, that requires 5 out of the 6 of us to vote to keep it. After that, it only requires a majority, which is half, well, half plus 1. So it only requires 4 votes to move it to November after that. So that was my thought. And then the other thing that I would say about the Survey Monkey, I do think it's a good idea. It would capture additional people. My concern is verifying those people, because anyone can fill those out, and there's no way to verify. Now, with economic development surveys and tagline surveys and stuff, that's, to me, that's lower stakes than taking that survey as official. I'm not sure if there's ways to verify, to make it more secure. But in general, I don't think there's a way to verify people's identity via SurveyMonkey, at least the way I've seen, because I've taken several, at least the way I've seen. So my concern would be, again, a false representation, because we wouldn't know who those people are. I also think that if we were to put it on the ballot in November instead, next year, which we hadn't thought of last time, it would give us more lead time to talk to people and let people know it's going to be coming up on the November ballot. So we could be talking about it at our meetings, we could put it out on our Facebook page that it's going to be a question on the ballot, and we will get an even better representation with more lead time for it being on the ballot. That's all.
Counselor Norris.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience. So, CCM is a good outlet for us. We are unique, so I think the more ways we can seek people's opinion, it's a great idea. We do realize that in the state of Connecticut, anywhere from 38 to 42% of households do not have computers. So as much as we want to do surveys via the internet, to a large extent, that may not be helpful. So I think between word of mouth, SurveyMonkey, put it on a ballot somewhere, that could be all great. But I really need some facts also, because we talked about it may be easier to vote, not easy to vote, confusing to vote. So first I would like to know, logistically, what would it take to move or keep the election in November? Not only what does it mean logistically, because we do know in terms of personal and operational scheduling, it may be easier in November because school, people taking their kids to school. So again, what does that mean? But at the same time, what is the cost to that? And again, looking for data, because I kind of hear, well, it may be a little cheaper. Well, really? Do we need to get different ballot boxes? Do we need to print more stuff? So there's a cost to all of this. So right now, in my opinion, I'm trying to make a decision pretty much on two things. One, I'm guessing which is best for the residents. And two, I'm guessing that it's going to be $50 cheaper. So I think the more information I have, the easier it is for me to make a decision that I am comfortable with. The next part to that is, and then I promise to stop speaking, Mayor, is, so let's say we decide to keep it in May, and at any time we can, from what I understand, any time after January, whatever date that is, we can vote. I guess 5 years from now, 8 years from now, we can vote to take it back to May.
No, to November.
We can take it to November, I'm sorry. So we keep it in May, we can always vote to take it in November. But what is the vote dynamics of that? And what I mean by that is, so right now, to keep it at May, we need to have no more than 1 or 2 individuals. We need no more than 1.
You have to have 75% to move it to May.
Okay, so that's
That's 5 out of
75%,
6.
right. So then, in the future, if we keep it in May and then decide we want to switch it to November, that's just simply a majority vote? Okay, all right. Good. Thank you.
All right. Is there anything else? Okay, we will be talking about this again next month. I think we've captured your questions. If not, we'll review it tomorrow. We'll go through this. Thank you. Okay, Okay, the next thing is Committee of the Whole agenda updates. This is informing.
So let me pull it up actually. Quick and simple. We've been, Sue and I, the mayor's executive admin, just been thinking about streamlining the agenda. As you all can see, there's a agenda in here that says draft in your packet. You can compare it to your current committee of the whole agenda. We're gonna thinking about streamlining it. We currently have these numbers that have been here before Mayor Hedrick has been in office, and it's almost very time consuming looking for those numbers, and we find it very difficult to look back to look at. So I have come up with, as well with Sue, to kind of just streamline it, putting the resolutions and any discussion items on under new business and referrals, and it would just be self-explanatory, almost quick to the point, brief description, what it would be, as long as the council feels comfortable, we'd move forward with that.
And this is not, the Committee of the Whole agenda is not covered under the charter, nor is it covered under our rules. So you can make changes to this. Okay, comments from the council? Deputy Mayor Depot.
I think this is a good idea. It also makes it look more like our group agendas, the way there is like a whole list, but only the ones we're discussing are on the agenda, which makes sense. My only question is, the numbers that are on the agenda usually are the same every month for the same topics, right? So Groton Utilities Financials is always 561, correct? So does changing it to this other method remove some method of tracking across minutes or anything that we were using before? Or is that just,
Yeah,
is that like something from an old system that we don't really need anymore?
I would say it's a little bit both. It's kind of the old system it was using. It would still be there, tracking based. If there is actually going to be financials being discussed, then that would be included in here, whether or not it happens or not. But it would just be, for example, the top one, I would have discussion only or presentation only, but it would always be included. So it would.
But like this says A.
Correct. So the letter references nothing. It's just for a quick reference for yourselves, just being letter A. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I was just saying, does it have any effect on this reference? Like right now, when you do the minutes, it says, it has these numbers next to that topic.
Correct. Yeah, there's no reference
It
whatsoever.
doesn't have any effect
Correct.
on any kind of filing system or
Correct.
reference system. There's no. Okay.
Correct.
Then it sounds great to me.
Councilor Carter?
So, what about, but I do know what you're saying too. It's like our meetings for our committees, but I know for our committees, it has some of these older referrals or older business on here, right? That kind of gives us a visual aid on like what to make a motion to like remove and whatnot, If you remove these things, you won't have any of that.
Well, we could vote to remove all these things and just start fresh. Some of these things have been on there, they're on there.
No, I understand, but, and what I'm saying is that, is there a reason why they're on there for the purpose of, and I think old Deb Patrick would actually have the answer to that, but, it would almost seem that, and not saying that you don't have brilliant ideas, right? But it's a good idea, but it almost seems like almost too good of an obvious idea. Like, why is it like this in the first place? Is there a particular reason behind that? Is it gonna prohibit us from, is it more of it wasn't more for, well, I don't know, nobody here knows the answers to that, right?
Well,
Was it more of a reason for visual aid,
Yeah.
like what?
From what I was able to notice with working with Sue, is there are binders in the mayor's office for specifically that are broken down by these categories and by these numbers,
Okay.
dating back. I don't even know how back. But the thing was that they were almost seemed like the numbers were everywhere. I mean, there's numbers popping in here from appointments to around 800, and I'm wondering, looking back, if I had hours in the day to just search back, what happened to all those numbers in between. So the point is, it's kind of just clearing these numbers out and starting fresh. It would, we're not going to lose the categorization of these items, but it'll still be there. So if that's your concern,
Yeah, I always, like, when we have things in motion for time, and this isn't just this, with a lot of things, you know? Some things that were, just simply wasn't around, you know? Even the utilities, it's like, you know, certain things, it's like, all right, well, why was it set like this to begin with, you know? There might be a reason that we have no idea for. That's all I'm asking.
Councilor McCabe?
I actually really, really appreciate this proposal that you're making. It's a lot easier to read. I remember when I first became a counselor, and I was trying to follow the agenda of what we were talking about, and I couldn't even figure out with all the other things. I do know that our committee packets do have all the past referrals in it until we have them removed. So it's not like that information would be lost to the counselors. They still could get it for their committees, and we could always, if you wanted, include those in those packets, but just to have an agenda that's an actual agenda makes a lot of sense to me. And it's easier to read, and I would guess it might be easier for you to put together, to keep in your head what we're gonna be discussing. This just feels like a cut and paste from week to week, so.
Councilor Norris?
I would say to even take it a step further, just treat it like a council agenda. Just tell us what we're discussing that night in terms of new business and old business, and move on. Just keep it simple.
Yeah. If it's not on the charter, why does he have to even come to us? Why can't he just make the change?
What's that?
If it's not in our charter, how come he can't, and he might be able to, how come he just can't just say, this is what I did?
Yeah.
You wanted,
Yeah, I want to make sure you guys are comfortable with it. I mean, I could have done it, but
look how much discussion we had on this.
Yeah.
If he would have done that, we'd have probably had more discussion. Because why didn't you bring it to us? So we brought it so that we would get the councils. We brought it to let the council know what he was looking to do. I thought it was a good idea. Let's bring it to council, let's get comment, and then if the council's okay with it, we'll get a consensus. And the next time you see your committee of the whole agenda, it will look like this. So is there any further discussion? Okay, I'll take Councilor Piazza.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say that I love outlines.
Okay, so let's get a consensus on going to the new one. We okay?
Two
Yeah,
thumbs.
all right, you got it. We will go to that.
Yes.
All right, we're going to go to 742 Groton Utilities. So Ron, if you could come up. All right, Neighborhood Assistance Program. Neighborhood Assistance Act Program.
Each year, the utility participates in the state's Neighborhood Assistance Act, and what it allows is a $150,000 tax credit, and it's basically allows us to sponsor someone who applies for the tax credit and give them a check for the $150,000, or up to $150,000. The way it works is, in this case, Bill Memorial Library applied to the state, went through either city council or town council to make a recommendation that it approve. I assume it was the town council, because I didn't see it come through here. So it goes through the local municipality, it gets brought to the state looks at the merits of it and says, yep, you're a member, you're doing this, and then the businesses will solicit a lot of, the charitable organizations that applied will solicit businesses and say, might you sponsor us, might you sponsor us? And then a committee gets together and picks usually a city-centric participant. It's been Sacred Heart in the past, it's been Odd Fellows in the past, it's been the town library in the past. It's been the city itself in the past. So this year, they're recommending Bill Memorial Library for $150,000.
Are there any questions? Counselor Sheffield?
Ron, who did we give money to last year? Do you know? Do you have a recollection? Because this is an annual thing that you?
Right, last year was Sacred Heart. Was there two?
I believe it was a combination. It may have been Oddfellows, and then Basra had somebody from that.
Basra also participates, but that goes through Basra. It was definitely Sacred Heart. They installed heat pumps. And I believe there may have been a small award even to the Bill Memorial, very, very small one.
But this is going to be the full amount to Bill Memorial. Now what's their plan for this amount? What are they?
Energy efficient window replacements.
Okay.
It's always related to energy for the ones we sponsor.
Counselor Norris?
Right, so this is the neighborhood assistance grant that we're talking about?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, so where organizations can, they submit through local towns into the state, they then can go around to other local governments for donations or sponsors or funding, that business can get a quote-unquote tax.
Yeah, an excise tax credit.
Right, exactly. So my first thing is, do we promote this program outward, or?
We have been oversubscribed. When I first got here, we did not participate. A
Okay.
year or two into it, we did start participating. Oddfellows introduced it to us, and since then, we have been fully subscribed
All right,
every year.
okay, because I would, and I was really not talking about on utilities, but I think it may be a good idea, I don't know, we may already do it, that any 501c3 organization that falls within the city of Groton can apply for this process and go through it. So maybe next May, when this comes up again, we look at doing that. That's all I was gonna say.
Deputy Mayor Depot?
So I think, when we post it, because I remember when you posted the Sacred Heart Award on there, I believe we do post the program details.
Yes.
In those postings on Facebook and on our website. So I do know it's out there. I think just like everything else we do with economic development in business outreach, it's like, how do you get the info to the people who need it kind of thing? But I think that we've been pretty consistent over the last several years, at least, we've been active on Facebook for a while now, that we've been consistent. We also, do we talk about this on City Day at all? Because that might be another place to put it out, is on City Day, to put the information out there. That might be an option, considering that Groton Utilities has a booth.
Oh, we certainly can. We haven't to date that I'm aware
So
of.
that might be a good idea, because I know a lot of charitable organizations or representatives from charitable organizations come, because that's when we give out the Jacqueline B. Nixon Award. So I know that a lot of people pay attention to that for City Day. So I feel like that might be kind of the same crowd sometimes that could apply for this as well. So that might be another point of information that we could give out. But other than that, I think we do a great job. I always try to repost it when I see it, the award. And I think, the Bill Memorial Library, these few, there's obviously qualifications for this grant money, and I like the idea of, if we didn't do this grant, it would just be taxes that we pay to the state, correct?
Right. There's rules, E and Ron know some of the rules if you're curious, but the state gives, I believe it's about $5 million, and then based on how many applicants and how many awards they are, the award is up to $150,000. The state can lower that amount if it gives too many other charitables, the donations. So that's the max amount the check would be. In either case, it's no cost to the utility.
Counselor Norris?
I apologize. I'm just saying that like Falcon Football, Fife and Drum Corps, those organizations can apply through this system. I just don't know if they're aware
Well,
about it.
this is a grant, but it's an energy grant.
Okay.
So it is for something done related to energy. For example, they're going to be replacing windows. Sacred Heart last year replaced a heat pump. And then, so it's not a cash award to do whatever you want. It's got to be energy related.
Sure. I was just going for example, Falcon Football could put solar panels on their roof down at Quantico Park.
Okay, are there any, Counselor Sheffield?
Yeah, regarding this resolution, like I said, I don't see the specifics of the energy part as far as the contribution. So that's what made me think that this could be used for other, low income and type of spending. But like I said, I was looking for the wording of, energy investment, and I didn't
Well-
come.
That's the part of the approval, correct?
Right. We don't run the program, so Bill Memorial Library asked us to sponsor them for the program, so we're not really experts in how they're awarded the grant or gets the grant. We get, so Bill Memorial Library, maybe Sacred Heart, Odd Fellows, and the library might submit for projects to us, and then Dan Bogues runs a team that decides who would get it, and they say, well, who have we given money to recently, and who might we be able to give money to now to try to share the wealth? And it ends up being very city-centric. If you're in the city, you have high odds of getting chosen.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, have we already moved this? Okay, I'll take a motion to move this to October 3rd, Mayor and Council meeting.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, Technological Solutions LLC for Skater Prism.
This motion and the next motion will be related because they're Technological Solutions LLC. We run a computer system, a SCADA system, that actually controls the distribution system and the substations. They're connected via a computerized system. It all is monitored back to the control room and operations. And that program needs to be updated along with the programming that controls the different switches and relays and breakers in the substations. The first one is related to programs that exist that have to be updated for existing equipment. The second one is very specifically capital related for the Buddington substation upgrade for new controls on new systems that we are procuring through the Buddington substation upgrade project. So they're similar, but one is capitalized and one is expense. So one is considered maintenance and the second one is considered capitalized, part of the project.
Any questions?
And you look for, oh, sorry.
Do you have a question?
Yes.
Counselor Sheffield.
And we're going to look at 20% contingency upfront to,
That's in case he has any programming issues or ends up having to put some extra time in. It's mostly man hours. It's actually all man hours.
Counselor Norris?
I apologize. So when we're talking about the technological solutions here, cost of service is $73,200. Am I reading the right thing here?
Yes.
Okay, so what is it software? Is it parts? Is it equipment?
This is mostly programming on new software platforms. So he's gonna bring in, install the brand-new software into the computers, and then do the programming in the new software. And it's like a,
Configuration?
yeah, it's all configuration onto PLCs, to the computers that are basically the human-man interface. So it's updating all those software algorithms and everything to get along with each other and make sure that he works with the guys so that if a breaker trips, it'll actually do a count of 3 and then maybe do a retry or do the right alarming as appropriate.
Right. So this is a business that's a contract that's coming in to program the software, or is it in-house?
Nope, this is, their name is right there, Technological Solutions. He's actually the guy that did the original programming.
Got it.
When we got it,
Got it.
maybe 8 years ago or however long.
And you said that 20% contingency is mostly going to be
I believe it's all
people
man
time?
hours.
So then so how does that break down when you say 20% an hourly rate?
The hourly rate came up at the Utility Commission meeting. I believe it was on the order of magnitude of, I think, it was like $200 an hour. It was close to a round number.
Okay, all right, thank you. I was just like 20% on labor, but I get it, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll take a motion to move R-22-09-113 to the mayor and council meeting of 3 October.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. And I'll take a motion to move R-22-09-114. Is that the right one? Make sure. Yep. 114 to the mayor and council meeting of 3 October.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, census for the meters.
The meters on your house currently report over a radio transmitted system. It'll report if you lose power. It reports your meter reading routinely to the system. It's collected and we get billing and that runs the cash register for revenues. The first batch of AMI, automated meter read meters, is actually starting to get archaic. They're about 15 years old, and that's about all they last. So about a year ago, we ran a resolution through for about 2,000 meters, and we're starting to get them in monthly. With all the supply issues, we figured that we better get another order in so that we continue to get a pallet a month that might have 200 meters on it, ongoing, moving into the future. It's a replacement of capital. It's a capital just upgrade item that is fairly routine at this point.
Councilor Norris?
Just for customer information, do we advise or pre-notify people that we're switching out your meter on such a date, that kind of stuff?
That's a good question. I actually don't know if we do that with electric. We do that with water, because water ends up changing their meter as an event. But when we change electric meters, I'm actually not sure.
Right.
But when we pull a meter and put it back in, they generally knock on the door. So I'm not sure if we do a note ahead of time. I'll actually send an email to the mayor's office and let you know that tomorrow.
I was just going from the standpoint, if someone sees, even if in this day and age, someone with a utility walking in the back of the house, may be a little surprised.
Right, and the only reason I don't know is because it's so routine,
Yeah.
that the meter readers are doing it, and everybody's doing it so routine that
Right.
I actually don't know.
Deputy Mayor Depot.
I will say to Councilor Norris's comment, they always have a badge and like a uniform, and they're, in my experience, always very nice, so. Question on the quote here. It says, unit price includes a 5% discount for orders over 1,500 units. Was that the only discount available? Were there any higher step discounts if we bought more or anything like that? Or was the 5% the only thing available?
I don't believe there was another discount available. That's probably why we're ordering 2,000. But that is about what we're trying to replace every year, is about 2,000. And at some point, we may even have hire contractors to help us out if we can get more than 200 meters a month. We're just having a hard time getting the meters.
Councilor Norris?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just asking how many total we talking about?
It would almost be the total residential customers, so you're talking on the order of magnitude of, I want to say 16,000. Am I thinking water?
16,000.
Residential customers for electric.
I was just curious.
Yeah, 12,000. That does sound right. 16 is water.
This could take a long time.
It's just ongoing.
Councilor Sheffield?
Ron, would it be, for this 2,000, will this be it for the year, and then you'll budget for next year for another additional, is that?
Right.
Okay.
Right. We did an order last year. This is going in for this year. The tail end of this might even be in the next budget year for the way the scroll is working. Depends on when they make them, how fast we can get them.
Councilor Piazza?
Thank you, Mayor. So the ones that you already have, you've already in process of replacing those? That's already been done, or you're going to do that all at once? How does this go?
No, they've started to replace them right now.
And how does that go? Who gets replaced first? I mean, does it go by?
It's usually
streets
by
or-
meters that are broken as of yet.
Good one. Okay,
Makes sense.
yeah.
Yeah, they'll report a default into the AMI system, and then they'll go try to replace those first.
Any other questions? I'm going to take a motion to move this to the mayor and council meeting of October 3rd.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you, Ron. Okay, Ron, do you want to come up to do the financials?
Actually, we make a recommendation that we wait until next month, and we'll have the first quarter finals for both utilities and the city, just to save a little bit of time, and that will get
Understand.
us through November 30th. A couple of things just quick to point out. If you do look through them, you'll see the month-to-date in water and sewer, the revenue for industrial is a little down. That is currently being investigated. One of the industrial customers appears to be a little bit lower than normal. So that's one of the things that will stick out if you flip through from the revenue side. And then on the sewer, that reduction in the water also affects the sewer along with the deduct. So I just wanted to point that out. And then the other thing is that we have a meeting scheduled for tomorrow to start the review of the PPA TCA for the electric with the forecast for the winter months that we received from CMAQ. So that'll be started. We're looking at it obviously through the end of September. So that will be coming to you as well with the findings of that. So I just want to let you know that we did tell you when we did come to you with that PPA TCA that it would be looked at and reviewed, and that is we're starting that process now as well. So those are just kind of the quick highlights for that.
Okay. All right. So that's it for what we can take care of right now. So I'm going to get us into executive session. I'll take a motion to move us into executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 1-206D.
We're not doing Leslie?
No,
Oh,
Sierra's not here. Upon motion and vote of the city council to discuss the Mother Bailey House to include city council, Director Uhas, Director Crean, and Director Summers.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. It is 7:26. We are in executive session.
Are we staying here?
Are we going to C8?
Yep, we can stay here.
Oh.
Was it easier for you if we go to C8 or? this to the. That's why he's got to turn this on. Then we got to go back into executive session. Hey, let me know when you're ready. Okay, so we came out of executive session at 8:24. We took a break. We are now back into regular session. And with that, I will take a motion to move the purchase of the Mother Bailey House, or correction, move the sale of the Mother Bailey House to the October 3rd Mayor and Council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, I'll now take a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 1-206B, and upon motion and vote of the city council to discuss Branford Manor.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, to include city council, mayor, and Joe Summers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Okay, we are now into executive session. It is 8:30. Okay, secure your microphones. went to 6 o'clock. Imagine if it started at 7:30,
Here until like 11 something one night.
and that's what drove it. That's one of the things.
This stinks. Never.
Absolutely. I went back to the charter. There's nothing requiring cows not discussing the charter. What's that? All right, good. We ready? Okay, we were out of executive session at 9:35. We're back into regular session at 9:37. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn?
Second?
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you. We are adjourned. Thank you, council. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Edward.